Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be in this beautiful planet of ours. This is Marc Lainhart, the Intuitive Prospector, here on the Intuitive Prospector page. Happy Monday to you. It's Monday morning. I'm here in Key Largo, Florida on vacation, taking the time to, what I always say, take the time to disconnect so that you have the time to reconnect. So I'm going to give it just a few seconds for everybody to get on board. If you want to share out the live feed, please do so. I'm going to be talking today about spirit speak, quote unquote spirit speak, and vacations and the importance of taking vacations and taking the time to disconnect. So again, I am here in Key Largo, Florida, finishing up a beautiful vacation. Did some golfing, did some swimming, did some scuba diving down to Iraq. So I'm only broadcasting off my phone today. So if you guys would be so kind to subscribe, like, share out, that would be awesome. It's 8 o'clock, and with every Mocha Monday, we've got to have our coffee. And with our coffee or with our tea. So we'll just give it a few seconds for people to get on board for Mocha Mondays. Please share out to a page just because I am working just from my phone today. I'm not in my studio in Seattle. So just going to say good morning to some of my top fans. Good morning, Kimberly. Good morning, Donetta. Good morning, Ari. How are you guys? So please share out to people that might benefit from today's message, where I'm going to be talking about spirit speak and what spirit speak means for me. It's not something that is my own lingo. I read about a book a week or so based on the radio show. We get a lot of books, a lot of guests, and I believe this was a former guest of the show that had talked about what spirit speak is. But I wanted to share with you today because there's been some really cool things that have taken place on this vacation. The interactions with nature, the interactions with what I call signs, symbols, synergy, synchronistic events, and it's been really fun. And it's really been really cool to see other people witness when stuff is happening in that moment. So this morning I'm going to be talking about vacations. 'Tis the season. It's Happy May to you, and we're getting close to the summer months. And it's always important to take that vacation just so you can manage your stress levels, things that you're dealing with. And don't forget to join me after the show today, right at 8:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time is the Prospecting Q&A after show, where I'll be doing live readings, taking your questions, spiritual chats, a lot of spiritual prospecting for your own spiritual goal. So if you're just joining, good morning to you. Got a couple morning. Good morning, Gibbs KD. How are you? Got a couple people. I am actually wearing my official Key West tie-dye shirt. This was a bar that we went to called the No Name Bar. You have to find it. It's one of the oldest bars in the Keys. Good morning, Tara. And so this morning I'm just sharing with the importance of taking the time to disconnect and make the time to reconnect. Because there's a lot of things that can happen when you take that time, that solitude, whether it's a vacation or whether it's a staycation, to get away from it all. And you can really tune into your higher self. You can really tune in to your things that you're wanting for your life and you want in happiness. Good morning, Mom. How are you? My mom's tuning in. So I am here in Key Largo, Florida, just wrapping up a week-long vacation. I've had a really great time, really relaxed. I've done no readings, but I'm back to work today. I will be actually heading back to Seattle tonight, late flight, and gonna be flying back to Seattle which is a busy week ahead. So I got a Forest Friday hike coming up this Friday, where we spiritual hikes for the soul. We'll get out and do some meditations, some qigong. Good morning, Thea. Good morning, Sandy. How are you? Mom says hello, sunny Arizona. Well, Sandy, I'm in sunny Florida, so it is hot. It is humid. It's been awesome. So this morning I'm talking about. I'm going to just turn the comments off here real quick. So for this show, this is an inspirational show every Monday morning, Metaphysical Mocha Mondays, where I share with you an inspirational message for the week ahead. I'm going to give you a totem animal spirit, going to give you a number and a crystal. This just things to make you think outside the box, to inspire you, to guide you, to teach you, to educate you, what have you. So this morning, I wanted to talk about spirit speak. And it's something that I first came aware of in my spiritual journey. So for those of you that are just starting out on your spiritual journey, spirit speak is where you start to become aware. And Eckhart Tolle teaches us that awareness is the greatest agent for change. Now, I do a lot of psychic work and I do a lot of mediumship work. I'm a British trained medium. I go to England every year and I studied at college for the last 5 years. However, there's much more to the spiritual path than just doing psychic readings, doing mediumship readings. It's about connecting to yourself. The spiritual path is about connecting to your higher self. Learning and growing and unfolding and transforming, working through your pain, working through some of your past history to move into acceptance for who you are today. And so the spiritual path is not always an easy path. I always remind people that it's not always rainbows, kitty cats, and unicorns, that there's a lot of growth and evolution that takes place in the spiritual path. So if you found your way to my channel this morning, The Intuitive Prospector, make sure to like it, subscribe to it. You can also catch this will be featured over on my YouTube channel. It'll premiere when I get back, just because I don't have the capacity to share it to my YouTube channel. But my YouTube channel has over 250 videos of hikes, dives, Metaphysical Mocha Mondays, and 4 seasons of Inspired Living Radio. And this Wednesday, we're going to have a really cool guest from England, Mel Collins, who's going to be telling us about her book called The Handbook for Highly Sensitive People. So if it's a show that you want to tune in, you can get into the description. Just hit the description of this video, and there's a link to my YouTube channel and also to marclainhart.com, where you can get a link to Inspired Living Radio, which broadcasts on the Om Times Radio media network at Wednesday, 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. It's a live radio show. Call-in lines, have a lot of fun. So this Wednesday is going to be a lot of fun. I'll be back on the air because I wasn't on the air this last Wednesday. So my co-host Kim was holding down the radio station while I was off. What was I doing on Wednesday? I don't know. Vacation. I'm in vacation mode. So good morning to you. Grab your coffee, grab your tea. Let's have a spiritual chat. Let's talk about Spirit Speak and what Spirit Speak is. So from the very first day, from when we stayed in Miami the first couple days, already started to have interactions, had interactions with a lot of animals. Actually, I saw a flamingo. Nobody on the resort had seen a flamingo in like 7 years since they've been there. We were talking to the waiters, and so I looked up the meaning of the flamingo. So anytime you have an interaction with nature, animals, flamingos, followed by a raccoon that ran through the restaurant, came right up to our table, looked at us, and then ran away. People find those weird. I find those very fascinating. I like to call those sign, symbols, synergy, and synchronistic events. And I call it Spirit Speak because when you're open and you're aware, and if you're going down the spiritual path, or if you've been long down the spiritual path, you know what I'm talking about. So if you know what I'm talking about, give me some hearts, give me some likes. If you're new to the spiritual path, this may be new to you, and these signs, symbols, synergy, and synchronistic events. One thing that was really cool that really stood out to me this trip is when my brothers come through and let me know that they're around, they leave a dime or 2 nickels or a quarter. It's not pennies, it's literally a dime, nickel, or quarters. And I was standing in a Haagen-Dazs getting some ice cream and in Key West, and looked down and there's 1 dime on the floor. Now, of course, for the analytical mind, those who are watching will say, well, somebody dropped it as they were making their change to get their ice cream. Totally get that. But for me, it's very significant because I haven't seen any dimes the whole trip, and then I looked down and there's 1 dime on a wood floor that really stood out, so they got my attention to let me know, hey, I'm okay, we're with you, we're seeing that you're enjoying Key West, and we're in Key West with you. And that's how the spirit world works. I find it in my studies, in my teachings, that the spirit world is very much a part of our own world, just a different frequency, just a different vibration. I know that I'll probably get some religious people that'll come at me for, saying that there's no heaven or no hell. I just personally, from a scientific standpoint and from a spiritual standpoint, I don't look at heaven being up or down or in a different place because we're on a round planet, so there really is no up or down. I look at it as a vibration, a frequency, and an energy that moves into a higher consciousness. And so, for me as a medium, I get a lot of interactions. In this trip, I had some very interesting interactions. I stayed in a hotel. I'm not going to say the hotel I was staying in, but there, with a hotel, I try to clear the space because energy is always changing. People come in and out of hotels, and the room we stayed in had some just some negative connotations to it, and something that I'm not comfortable with, and something that I do this work, and I know you can't have the light without the dark. I get that, but it's not something that I tune into. But I can tell you, there was one night that I was just really uncomfortable, and just felt like something big behind me about 3 o'clock in the morning. Just had to tell them if they're not of the light, they got to take flight. And I don't get into demons. I don't get into all that stuff. I don't give any attention to it. But it's just for me as a spiritualist, as a medium, I'm aware of it, and I choose universal law. They're not going to overstep their bounds. I choose to pay attention to what I want to pay attention to. And again, it's about awareness. It's about your intuition. And it's what I call Spirit Speak. So if you're just joining me, good morning to you. I'm live from Key Largo, Florida, here in a condo, VRBO. It's been really nice, really relaxing. If you guys want to share out the page, please do so. Share out to a couple pages. Get a couple more people on board to hang out with us in community. And then after this show here in about, I don't even have a clock on me. If somebody could send me a note. I'll turn the comments back on. If somebody could send me a note, good morning, Tina, that it's 8:30 your time or 11:30. Hi, April. Could you guys let me know? I don't even have a watch, just so you can see. I don't have a clock. I don't even see a clock. Okay, here's a clock. I found a clock. See, I'm in vacation mode because I don't have a watch on. And so in about 15 minutes, I'll be live for the Prospecting Q&A after show, and that is a show dedicated to where I connect with all of you, all of the spiritual prospectors that are falling as my top fans. We do spiritual chats, readings, could be mediumship, could be psychic, just could be some guidance for the week. It's my way of giving back every Monday morning, my way of paying it forward, trying to make a difference in people's lives, and just having fun and appreciating life and being in the magic of the moment. So just take a deep breath with me. Move yourself into the magic of the moment. Prepare your day. If you're just preparing your day, if you're on the West Coast, your day's just getting started. If you're on the East Coast, you're already heading for lunch. And just find the magic in the moment as I'm talking about spirit speak and vacations. And I always remind people it's so important to take the time to disconnect so that you can make time to reconnect. Reconnect to yourself, reconnect to your family, reconnect to your relationships, reconnect to nature. I've been here in Miami all week and I've been reconnecting to nature in amazing ways. Like I said, I've had interactions just in the amount of the week that I've been here in spirit speak, and nature and animals play a big part in this, guys. I never really believed it until I started to witness it myself. I've had an interaction with a flamingo. I've had an interaction with a raccoon that came up to our table at a restaurant. I've had an interaction with a couple butterflies. I've had an interaction with 2 moray eels. At about 25 feet, I went diving off one of the shipwrecks here, an actual Coast Guard shipwreck about 100 feet down. Went down and saw tons of barracuda. I looked up, I panned up, and it was about 80 feet down, and panned up, and I could literally see about 25 barracudas just sitting there in the current. The current was really strong. So barracudas, reef shark, a lionfish. So that's a fish that kind of has all the spikes around it. My dive partner Levi saw a spiny lobster. I swam with a reef shark, which was really cool in the wild. So I've had all these interactions with nature, and I look up those meanings of what those interactions are. What are the messages behind those interactions with different animals? We saw a couple deer. We've seen, oh my goodness, we've seen a turtle. We've seen a ton of iguanas and lizards on the road. It's just been a trip filled with different interactions through nature. Now, I am, somebody that gets out in nature. In fact, this Friday, May 10th, will be the next Forest Friday hike. So if you're in the Seattle area, the Pacific Northwest, join me for Forest Fridays. It's a free hike. We ask for donations, and it's a way to get out into nature and really connect to nature yourself. And if you're someone that's under a lot of stress, a lot of worry, then this is something that you want to do. And if you can't do the hike with me, get out in your own space where you're at and get out and just go grab a tree, hug a tree, touch nature. Of course, I do Qigong every morning. I do meditations every morning, and it's my way to connect to my higher self. But with doing the spirit speak that I'm talking about this morning in the vacations, it's to remind people just how much close the spirit world can be if you allow it to be. So for those of you watching and you've lost a loved one, they're not far away. They're only ever just a thought away. And I remind people of that. And, I've done so many readings over the past couple years and events that it's a constant reminder that you're not alone, even though we sometimes feel alone. But if you just take a second to take a deep breath, move yourself in your energy and your spirit into the magic of the moment, the awareness opens up, your intuition becomes a little bit more heightened, and what happens is what I call spirit speak. Now, that's not Marc's lingo, just so we're clear. That's somebody that wrote a book. I picked it up on the radio show, I believe. Somebody said spirit speak, and I said, that's really cool. I'd like to use that because it's the spirit's world of speaking to us. But they can't speak to us because they don't have the vocal cords. So sometimes they can. Sometimes they can use energy, and you can actually hear the word of that person in spirit or your higher self, your angels. I don't want to take away from somebody's experience because it's different for everybody. But when spirit speaks, they do it through different signs, symbols, synergy, books, movies, animals, numbers, all sorts of different ways. And so this morning, I'm just reminding you that if you're open to it and you're aware to it, the spirit speaks to you. It might even speak to your own soul. That's something that you've been thinking about doing. And if you have been thinking about doing that, what's holding you back? Is it your own fear? Is it the fear of others? Is it the fear of failure? And for me, those two words are very powerful, fear and failure. Two words that I embrace and I teach in my spiritual development group to have no fear, because fear is false evidence appearing real. And if there is a real fear, like if I'm diving at 100 feet on a Coast Guard shipwreck and I see a great white coming at me, yeah, that's going to be some fear on my end because I'm in his environment and I'm either going to fight, flight, or freeze. Now, in that case, I'm going to probably freeze and not move and just watch him in his essence and his beauty, just like I did with the reef shark. Now, the reef shark was only about 4 feet, but went right by me. And you know that you could incorporate real fear into that. But again, you're going to do one of those 3 things: fight, flight, or freeze. Now, I say that we move into that fear-based energy, which then blocks us. It takes us away from the things that we are inspired to do, want to do. And so just, if you can remember that, false evidence appearing real. What we don't understand usually leads us to fear, what we've seen on Hollywood, but you can gain so much more if you move past that fear-based energy and move into the things that you've been thinking about doing and not worrying about failure, because failure is the other word that I use a lot. First attempt in learning. I found in the spiritual path that we're all here to learn, we're all here to grow, we're all here to unfold and transform. And failure is something that we all need to go through. Fail often, fail big. And I always say, no pressure, no diamond. And for today's message, I want to remind you that the spirit speak, the spirit world will connect to you, especially if you're in a relaxed setting like I am here today. Now, I picked this setting behind me, the anchors, because one, I didn't wear my necklace of the anchor, but I do have an anchor necklace that I usually wear, that I have here on vacation. But the anchor is about strength. The anchor is about grounding. The anchor is about, if you're in a, you know, like I'll use the diving example. We were in pretty choppy seas on, what's today? May, I don't even know the date. But a couple days ago we went diving on May 4th. So it was Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with you. And for those of you that follow me know that I'm a pretty big Star Wars nerd. But it was really cool to dive. Something I've never done. I've never gone on a deep dive to 120 feet. That's my first deep dive. So again, a little bit of nervousness to go down. The current was ripping pretty good. The waves were choppy, but we throw out an anchor or we throw out a lifeline, and that keeps us in place. And even though we get moved around, if we overcome that fear that I was just talking about and we ascend down, you get some pretty amazing experiences in what I call soul adventures. And I would have never been able, if I would have not overcome that fear and got into the water, even though the current was strong, we had to hold on to ropes and be laid down. When I looked up at 80 feet and saw a school of barracudas above me just sitting there in the current swimming, that's something that'll stick with me forever. Now, I would have never got that experience if I would have bought into the fear, like, what if I dive into this water and there's something that's going to get me, or what if I drown? And so that's where the human mind can really limit us, because that fear-based energy can really hold us back. And I now look at it as a soul adventure with an experience, a spiritual connection, a spiritual adventure, and that's why I do a lot of what I do: dives, hikes, different events. It's because it's just not about just doing psychic and mediumship reading. It's about getting people living again, getting people inspired, myself, and some of the my past that I've gone through, and some of my transformations to get to this point to share these messages with you. But when you overcome fear and you overcome failure, you embrace that, and you bring it into your awareness and your intuition, and you actually move into that, and your life changes in amazing ways. And what happens is the spirit speak. The spirit world starts to interact with you, because they're not going to let you do it alone, guys. I just want to remind you that you're not in this alone. And even though some of you that are watching this morning, and if you shared out, thank you so much for sharing out. For those that share out or subscribe to my YouTube playlist, you'll be entered into a drawing for a free 30-minute reading with me at the end of May. Spirit picks one person. So please share out if you don't mind, because I'm just working from my mobile phone today. But when you move into that energy, when you move into that confidence and you trust and you listen to spirit speak, and again, the spirit can come through in many different ways: songs, books, movies, dimes, animals, flamingos. In fact, here's my dime right here, just so you guys can see. Here's the dime right here that I found in Key West in a Haagen-Dazs having ice cream. Now, like I said, the analytical people or the critics will say, well, somebody just dropped that dime when they were exchanging the change. Yes, but I was in ice cream. I was having an ice cream, so that experience alone, Haagen-Dazs in Key West, was something that my brothers enjoyed as well, was ice cream. And so when I saw this on the ground, for me personally, I knew that they were with me and they were seeing me in the present tense, because the spirit world does see us in the present tense of what we're doing and how we're interacting and what we're learning as we go through the progressions of life. And for me, that was just a comfort to say, those that are in the spirit world, not just my brothers, but I've got a lot of family and friends and animals in the spirit world. It's a big part of why I do what I do today. It just was a reminder that I'm having a good time in Key West. I'm having a Haagen-Dazs ice cream. but I know that the spirit world is speaking to me to let me know that I'm not alone. And there's comfort in that, and there's support in that. So for those of you that are just going through a grieving process, maybe you've just lost somebody, it's hard. There's a grieving process you have to go through. There's a learning curve, a healing curve that takes place when you've lost somebody close to you. And it's a big part of why I do the work that I do today as a medium, why I go to England to study, why I go around the world doing different soul adventures as a spiritualist, as a humanitarian, is to experience it so I can be a storyteller and share that experience with you as well. So this morning I'm talking about Spirit Speaks, and if you just take a deep breath, it's real easy, nothing to it, just take a deep breath. Try to clear your mind of the thoughts so you're not in the future. Your imagination creates the future and your memories create the past. And just kind of put those aside for a second. You can even take your heart or your hand and put it on your heart and take a deep breath in. And if there's something or someone you want to connect to, ask them to draw close to you. Ask them to give you an impression, a thought. Maybe a song comes on at that moment. Maybe it's a book you're reading and that passage really sticks with you. Maybe it's an animal that shows up that, just right out of the blue. We got a ton of doves around us. That's another animal experience I've had since we've got doves all around us here in Key Largo. We've been looking for the manatee, but we have not seen the manatee yet. There is a manatee in the bay right here in Key Largo, but we have yet to see him. So I'm hoping my friend Kira, who's sitting poolside with my wife and her husband Levi, maybe they're even watching this, I don't know. They're out at the pool having fun looking for a manatee, and I'm in here inspiring and working, but that's part of how it goes for Mocha Mondays. But just, having that connection to the spirit world through nature is a very, very powerful thing. And sometimes it's flowers, sometimes it's just people that come into your life that give you a message. I call those earth angels or body doubles. You may actually see somebody, and this has happened to me, where you see somebody that looks just like the person that was your father or your mother or your brother or your lover, and it reminds you that, that they're still very much part of our lives. And so that's called Spirit Speak, and that's something that I teach on and I talk about all the time. And it's the way of the spirit world to connect to us without having this anymore. This is very primitive, because if you think about it from a science standpoint, all I'm doing is using words. My mind is using a vibration that hits these chords that allows you to hear me give you sound and communicate. But when you start to communicate in different ways, there's many different ways, hundreds of different ways, through sign language, through the impression of feeling, through signs and symbols, through Braille if you're blind, the touch, the ability to feel. There's a ton of different ways that communications can take place. And so this morning I'm just here to remind you that Spirit Speak is, if you have an open mind, some really cool things can happen. And if you ask those that are no longer with you to draw close, they'll give you a sign, I promise. It may not come right away. They're not on demand. But they will interact with you in some pretty amazing scenarios. And this week has been all about animals and nature. So with that, I want to give you your message for the week. The message that I've been saying all week is take the time to disconnect so you have the time to reconnect. A lot of us get so busy that we forget about ourselves and we're focused in on our families, on our jobs, and that's fine, but you got to take some time for yourself because it helps you to connect in. If you're a writer like myself and you're looking for inspiration, or if you're doing readings, psychic readings, mediumship readings, healing, you have to take that downtime, like recharging the phone, recharging a battery, and you can do that through vacations, staycations, workshops, just the ability to get away. And like I said, the anchors behind me are a reminder that the anchors help us stay grounded in a very stormy world that we live in. I always, as a coastie, the anchor was a very important part of the ship, because at times in emergencies you needed to get grounded and you needed to anchor and throw the anchor out. So you end up on the shoal, or you end up on the reef barrier, and everybody could perish. So the anchor has a lot of significance, and that's why I chose it today versus being outside. Plus it's like 97 degrees out and like 76% humidity, so I didn't want to go outside because it's really hot. But the anchor, this is just in the studio where I'm at. There's a helm, just in forward above the TV. So it's about steering, it's about navigation, it's about nautical terms, but it's also about being grounded. And sometimes you need to do that grounding in order to, we used to say, in order to build up your sea legs, you have to have some turbulence and you have to go through those rough seas to get to that smooth sailing. And that's what today's message is about Spirit Speak. For those of you that are in the rough seas and you're trying to build your sea legs, your spiritual path, your spiritual unfolding or evolving, or however you want to look at it. Some of you are just beginning, some of you are right in the thick of it, and some of you are like myself, have been on this path for many, many years now, and see the world differently and interact with this world and the unseen world much, much differently. Not something I'll be honest with you guys, it's not something I thought I'd ever be doing until the tragedies, my own near-death experience, my own out-of-body experience happened, that put me on this path to be talking with you today. So please share out, please like, please subscribe, get your top fan badge so I can call you out when we can move over to the Prospecting Q&A after show, which is going to take place here in about 4 minutes. But I want to give you your totem animal spirit, I want to give you your crystal, and I want to give you your number for the week. So you can think about that when you go through the week until we meet up next Monday for the next Metaphysical Mocha Mondays. And make sure to get on my YouTube playlist, which has over 250 videos of dikes, hikes, messages, radio shows, podcasts, Metaphysical Mocha Mondays, what I like to call spiritual awesomeness. So for this week, the card that I picked, or I should say that the card, I shuffled the decks. I work with numerology. I'm a life path 8, so I like to shuffle the decks 8 times, pick the 8th card. And this morning was the ladybug. So it's kind of funny because this morning I was talking about take the time to disconnect so you have the time to reconnect. And when you take that time to reconnect, you notice the little things. Now I know it's backwards in the video, so nobody needs to tell me that. But if you pay attention to the ladybug, where you're at, I haven't seen a ladybug on this trip, so I'll be curious to see if I see one either from now until I get back to Seattle, because it's really nice in Seattle from what the weather's telling me. But it'll be interesting to see if I get to see the ladybug. But as far as notice the little things, and when you take the time to disconnect and have the time to reconnect, you start to notice the little things. And I noticed a lot of little things this trip, and it was just a lot of fun. The next one is the numerology card. This is to time out. This was to take a time out. So I don't know if the message was for me specifically here in my tie-dye Key West t-shirt, but I've been taking the time out. The 3 is about expression, and the 7 is about truth. And this trip has been a lot of expression of myself, to just connect to nature through dives, through golf, through exploring new towns, new locations, meeting new people. I've met a lot of amazing people, and we start talking about spirituality, and I don't even bring it up. It's kind of cool. Even an old couple from England just sitting at dinner. But the 37 together, 7, 8, 9 is a 10. So I had to think about my math for a second, right? 7, 8, 9, 10. Sorry, I need another drink of coffee here. Hold on. The 10 in numerology is about independence and beginning something new. But in order to do that, it reminds us to take a time out. So that ties into today's message of Spirit Speak. Take the time to disconnect so you have the time to reconnect. And again, pay attention to 3, 7, take the time out. And then the crystal for this week, I like to give different crystals, stones. The crystal is actually my own personal. This is blue lace agate. This is bloodstone. This is something that I wear because this is all about relaxation. This is about connecting to your higher self. It's an inspirational stone. It's a relaxation stone. Amethyst, citrine, rose quartz, all great crystals for relaxing and moving away from thought, because sometimes you have to move away from thought so you can start to connect to things that are important to you, so you can find your happiness, so you can find less stress. Maybe it's love, maybe it's a career. But the blue lace agate for me is about connecting to the higher self, and it helps me to write and helps me to do these shows because these shows are never planned until the morning of. I start to get some connections, but the morning of, when I do my Qigong and meditation, is really where I'm inspired to talk about different topics. And today's topic is Spirit Speak, how the spirit world speaks to you, and it's different for everybody, but there are some similarities and trends that happen along the way. And also, take a vacation. Make a plan to take a vacation. It doesn't have to be an expensive vacation. Like I said, I'm here in Key Largo, Florida, but we came down. It was a working vacation. First half was work, second half was vacation. And take that time to disconnect so you have the time to reconnect. So that's just a reminder for this week. Have a great rest of your week. I'm going to put this over to my YouTube library, and I'll be back here in about 30 seconds for the Prospecting Q&A after show. So get your questions ready. Usually 1 question per person. If it's mediumship, I'll turn on the notifications so I can bring you on live, and we can have a spiritual chat of connecting to that person that may not be here with us anymore. And we'll just see what we get. It's a lot of fun. There's no planning or scripting to any of my shows that I do. If you want to check my work out, go to marklainhart.com. There's a link there with all the testimonials of the hundreds of readings I've done and people I've worked with all around the world. You can do an internet search for the Intuitive Prospector. You can catch me here every Monday morning at 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for Metaphysical Mocha Mondays. And you can also catch me over on the Ohm Times radio platform, internet-based radio and podcast. live radio show, podcast, Wisdom Wednesdays at 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. Just go to marclainhart.com. It's your one-stop shop for everything, my articles, my shows, YouTube, some fun stuff in there. And go ahead and check that out if you want to do some spiritual prospecting for your own spiritual gold. I'd love to work with you, and I already know that I got a busy week ahead. I already got readings booked out for the rest of the week because that's what happens when you take a week off. But my Forest Friday hike is May 10th. This next Friday, we're going to get out into nature. And then I also have some events coming up on May 18th here in West Seattle at Inner Alchemy. It's going to be Soul Spa, where myself and a few other mediums are going to be doing a free demonstration in mediumship. So if you want to check that out, you can get those tickets off marclainhart.com. And if you want to see me do a demonstration, I'll be up in Canada at the end of May, up at Love of Avery Kind studio in Surrey, White Rock, Canada. I'll be doing a demo on Friday night, and on Saturday a workshop, and then Sunday night will be a platform demonstration on how to work on the platform for mediumship. So you can get all those tickets at marclainhart.com. I'd love to work with you. So there's some more events coming up. I just can't announce them quite yet, but I'm looking forward to getting out and just exploring and discovering through body, mind, and spirit. And I'll be back here in 30 seconds for the Prospecting Q&A after show. So just a reminder, notice the little things through the ladybug, and take a time out and get yourself some blue lace agate, and take the time to disconnect so you can make the time to reconnect. Until our next soul adventure together, be kind, be caring, be compassionate, and I'll see you next Monday for Metaphysical Mocha Mondays. Take care, everybody. Namaste.